So the main thing that we need to discuss is not only what's happening on the price action on the chart, but how will the ISO20022 deadline this month coming up in just a few days with SWIFT and this coexistence period ending affect XRP, XLM, the other cryptocurrencies that have been mentioned in the ISO compliance list. Now, we're going to also dispel some myths here because on swift.com, the ISO20022 implementation, there's a coexistence period that customers can decide when to enable this messaging standard for cross-border payments. And on their site, it says the deadline here, is November 22nd for them to consider implementing the solutions to process and store richer and more structured messaging that will impact the core payment application, middleware, reconciliation, AML, KYC, which is Know Your Customer, archiving, reporting applications, messaging interface, and acquisition channels. And to extract and realize the true benefit of this new messaging standard, it needs to be implemented end to end. Now, this has sparked a lot of controversy about massive amounts of money flowing into XRP or XLM, specifically videos like this.
Processes $5 trillion daily, or 1.25 quadrillion annually. If you didn't know what that was, quadrillion annually, SWIFT. If XRP captures 5 to 10% of volume, let's just say 10% of volume, $125 trillion annually. The demand for XRP, by the way, it could be any of these other technologies we're talking about. Analysts estimate that a $10 trillion market cap could push XRP's price to $100 per token with full replacement potentially driving it up
to $1,000 a token. So it's created these insane price predictions for XRP, causing a lot of hopium, causing a lot of hype. And then underneath the official ISO 20022 Q&A section here, it's saying cryptocurrencies are not inherently ISO 20022 compliant because there's been a lot of confusion and misleading information on the web referring to the compliant cryptocurrencies, but those statements are not correct because the cryptocurrencies are not managed and not registered by ISO 20022. ISO 20022 is a global standard for financial messaging and provides a common language and structure for exchanging financial information. And if you guys go to ISO20022.org, underneath their frequently asked questions here, and you just scroll all the way down to the bottom here, there's 3 main questions revolved around cryptocurrencies. For example, are there any cryptocurrencies that are compliant with the ISO standard? Can I indicate cryptocurrencies in the ISO 20022 messages? And can a blockchain company be ISO 20022 compliant? And this is important that you understand this because what a lot of crypto influencers and people out there on Twitter and YouTube are saying is that XRP, Stellar's XLM, Algorand, etc., are ISO 20022 compliant. And that only ISO 20022 compliant cryptos will be used in the new global financial system. And SWIFT is being replaced by ISO 222 compliant blockchains. So this has been one of the biggest marketing narratives in crypto since 2021, really. So this is the truth about what SWIFT is actually saying, so you can have clarification here. So number 1, ISO 20022 is not a standard that cryptocurrencies themselves can be inherently compliant with in the way that people think. So think of the ISO 20022 messaging standard like a dictionary and grammar for how banks, payment systems, central banks exchange financial data with each other. It's used for traditional payment messages like credit transfers, direct debits, security settlements, etc. And number 2, cryptocurrencies are not registered with or governed by the ISO organization because the label doesn't apply to tokens or blockchains themselves. They have a separate standard, and that's called ISO 24165 for registering digital token identifiers. And number 3, some blockchains or companies can and do create messaging layers that use the ISO format. For example, Ripple, the company, has an ISO 20022 ready messaging plugin for its enterprise product, and that's RippleNet. And Stellar and a few others have built or are building ISO 20022 message translation layers. And this means that a bank that already speaks the new ISO messaging standard can more easily talk to these networks, but it doesn't make the cryptocurrency in itself ISO compliant here. So starting November 22nd, SWIFT and major players like Fedwire, Target2, Chips, etc. will fully migrate their interbank messages to the new format. And this is just an upgrade of the language that traditional financial companies use amongst themselves. So the truth is banks are switching to the new ISO messaging standard, but that integration in 4 days is not going to have the effect on the price action that most people think. In fact, there's more important catalysts that are going to affect the price action in the immediate term that we need to focus on, and one of which being the Clarity Act.
This is further clarification. The Genius Act gave us clarity on stablecoins. This new bill will give us clarity on much more within the general world of crypto, and again provides the rules that the traditional finance industry, banks, insurance companies, credit card companies, as well as the Fortune 500 generally, need to know that they're able to engage in this marketplace. They know what they're allowed to do, how they're allowed to do it, how they have to disclose it and report it, and pay taxes on it. And this is going to unleash the burdens that have kept everybody out of the marketplace. The result of all this, you're going to see hundreds of millions, probably hundreds of billions of dollars, perhaps even trillions of dollars flowing into Bitcoin and other digital assets. And since all of these coins operate on a supply-demand issue, just like any other asset, we're anticipating this is going to be the beginning of a major source of inflows and price increases over the next several years.
So the key here is over the next several years. The ISO20022 deadline date for November 22nd is not the finish line, it's the starting line here. And what's more important is the liquidity injections that happen into the crypto market, leading us into December that we're going to discuss on the price chart in a likely scenario. But we've seen 3 global outages in the past 30 days between Amazon Web Services, Eurofiber, Cloudflare, and it's happening coincidentally around the ISO20022 implementation and Ripple's quiet expansion and acquisition of very key companies here. And so is this all just a coincidence, or is this a stress test for the new digital economic architecture? Well, it's very interesting how these 3 outages are 3 different layers of global infrastructure, all within the same migration window. So AWS is Amazon Web Services, that's the computer layer. Eurofiber is the physical transit layer, and then Cloudflare is the routing plus security layer. And these outages are lining up just suspiciously close to the new ISO20022 messaging standard. That's going to be the new backbone for real-time tokenized payments and cross-border settlement. And banks don't just test this stuff by pressing a button. They simulate failures across clouds, fibers, and edge networks. And suddenly, with all 3 failing, this is leading a lot of people to believe that it's a rehearsal, not just an accident. And every single outage occurred on networks tied to interbank messaging and digital identity pilots. Because Amazon Web Services has been hosting CBDC sandboxes, Eurofiber connects banks, data centers, and financial hubs, Cloudflare protects routing tables tied to financial APIs in banks' ISO20022 services. So when these 3 wobble together, it's not downtime here, it's dark zone testing, which is a method used to test systematic resilience under controlled chaos. And the new digital economy needs one thing, that's infrastructure that can't break. Because when we talk about real-time settlement, high-frequency cross-border messaging, tokenized assets moving 24/7, they need to test latency, throughput, rerouting, failover behavior, BGP level resilience, and that's exactly what these outages look like. And we've seen this pattern happen before with major outages that later turned out to be tests. Facebook's 2021 blackout triggered during the BGP routing experiments, Google Cloud's 2019 collapse caused by traffic sharding tests, Visa Europe's 2018 failure happened during back-end hardware migration, Amazon Web Services S3's meltdown caused by a scaling test gone wrong. And every time the public was told it was a random outage, and each time it was actually infrastructure being upgraded. Now what's interesting here is Elon Musk said that X money will be rolling out to the public very soon, and it would only make sense for X money to be ISO20022 messaging plus compliant crypto plus institutional liquidity plus real-time settlements. And you don't launch something of this magnitude just half-ass here. You don't do it willy-nilly without coordinated tests. What do you actually do to stress test it? Well, you simulate failures across every layer of stack to see how the settlement web behaves under pressure. And the timing is just too perfect here. The alignment is too precise. All these outages happen during CBDC trial expansions, during ISO20022 implementation, during bank-level messaging upgrades, during the rise of ZK-proof identity systems, during renewed XRP Ledger institutional partnerships. And the closer and closer that we get to the implementation of this new standard, the more strange things will happen, even after it takes place, like blackouts, potential cyber attacks. Basically, they need an excuse to justify the new financial system, and it's all by design. And banks are finally waking up to this.
What banks are waking up to is, over the next 15 years, there's going to be the largest wealth transfer in history.
It's already started.
It's already started, from baby boomers and Gen X to Gen Z and Gen Alpha. $80 trillion of wealth is going to be transferred to digital native generations. You know, these are people who are going to expect money and investments to be as instantly movable as a text or a video file. And, you know, blockchain really is best seen as a recognition that most money and financial assets are just digital information on ledgers.
Right.
But in the legacy world, there are lots of different ledgers that don't talk to each other. And so you end up with unnecessary friction and cost and intermediaries, whereas this new coming generation is going to expect instant movement of money globally. And that's what blockchain facilitates. So, the big story here is banks need to prepare for what this coming digital native generation are going to want, from financial services. And at the most basic level, they're going to want access to digital assets.
Now, this is why we're seeing one of the biggest pivots from some of the largest companies in the world diving full-fledged into blockchain tech, distributed ledger technology. And this company, for example, Notch, governing the thriving ACH network, the payment system that drives, safe, smart, and fast direct deposits and direct payments, being named the preferred partner for ISO20022. Well, they put this out saying Stronghold is now wired into the U.S. payments backbone for pay by bank, POS e-com, and data-rich rails for programmable money. Now, listen to what Stronghold said right here.
All SIPA payments to use 20022, while the Federal Reserve in the U.S. is encouraging financial institutions to adopt it by 2023. So what does this mean for digital currencies? ISO 20022 has the potential to play a key role in the development and implementations of CBDCs, as it provides a flexible and standardized framework for financial messaging that ensures consistency and interoperability between systems. Adopting ISO 20022 could increase the use of cryptocurrencies that are compliant with it. Two cryptocurrencies that are members of the ISO 20022 standards body are Ripple's XRP and Stellar Lumens. Recognizing the value of ISO 20022 messaging and its potential to transform the financial industry, Stronghold has utilized this technology in conjunction with blockchain ledger payments in select projects. Messaging standards are crucial for enabling the efficient and secure exchange of financial information between different systems and technologies. They play a critical role in improving the overall performance and reliability of the financial services industry.